Most people trust that when a bottle says extra virgin olive oil, it's pure, healthy, and safe. But global investigations now dark truth. Much of what's sold today is fake, diluted, or even contaminated with industrial oils. And the scariest part, you'd never taste the difference until the damage is already done. But there's good news. In this episode, you'll learn exactly how to separate the real from the fake, so you can protect your body, your brain, and the people you love most. Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast. Today, we're breaking down the truth about olive oil, how to spot authenticity, why so many bottles on the shelf can't be trusted, and what that means for seniors striving to eat clean and stay strong. Because according to research published in the Journal of Food Science and Technology, up to 80% of olive oil sold globally has been adulterated or misrepresented, a problem so widespread it now surpasses fraud in wine and honey. So sitting across from me today is someone who has seen these deceptions over a century of practice. At more than 100, he still treats patients and teaches, reminding us that health is vigilance. No one is better to guide us than Japan's oldest practicing doctor, Shigeaki Hinohara.
Thank you, John. It is always an honor to share these conversations. And today's topic is actually a shame, because if the oil meant to guard our hearts is poisoned, how can we truly feel protected at the dinner table?
That is a sobering thought. For anyone listening right now, I want you to consider just how many meals you've seasoned with olive oil in the past week alone. And stay with us because this episode might be more important than you think.
The uncomfortable truth is that fake or adulterated olive oil isn't rare. It's common, persistent, and nearly impossible to spot with the eye. Many seniors blame fatigue, digestion issues, or rising cholesterol on aging when the real culprit may be counterfeit oils hiding in plain sight. And because the fraud is buried in legal loopholes and technical language, it often goes unchecked, while older adults quietly pay the price. In this episode, we'll walk through the top 10 countries where olive oil fraud is most widespread, and more importantly, how to spot real oil once and for all. You'll learn which labels matter, which home tests are worth your time, and why price can be a clue. By the end, you'll know exactly which olive oil belongs on your next shopping list.
So basically, symptoms are showing up. But if we don't trace them back to what's on our plate, we could spend years treating the wrong problem, right?
Exactly. And that is why we will not just talk about fraud in theory. We will break down, one by one, the specific patterns that lead to confusion and harm. We will walk together through the 10 major problem regions, uncover the science behind what fake oils do in the body, and finish with proven strategies you can rely on today. By the time we close, you will not only understand the danger but also feel confident in your ability to choose wisely.
I think back to a patient in her 70s, frustrated that her cholesterol was rising despite a diet rich in olive oil. She bought the biggest, cheapest bottles, believing she was doing everything right, yet her energy faded and her blood work worsened. It struck me then that even trusted foods can quietly work against us if we don't know what to look for.
That story is not unusual, John. Many older adults share the same belief and the same disappointment without realizing that the source of their struggle may be sitting right there on the kitchen counter.
So let's open this conversation by asking the first critical question. Which countries should seniors be most cautious about when they reach for a bottle of olive oil?
The first country we must look at is Portugal. Its olive groves are beautiful, steeped in centuries of tradition, yet even here, about 1 in 10 bottles sold abroad may not be what the label promises. The oils are often stretched with cheaper seed oils or minor additives that dilute both taste and nutritional value.
So even in a nation known for pride in its olive culture, seniors might unknowingly be paying for something that isn't protecting their health at all.
Exactly, and this is why trust cannot come from heritage alone. Certification and transparency must matter more than the story on the label.
That makes me wonder, how many people stop at the romantic image of a Mediterranean village and never think about the laboratory evidence behind the oil they buy?
Quite a few. John and Argentina are good examples. It is newer to the global olive oil scene, but nearly 20% of its oils have been found to contain cheaper vegetable oils.
That's remarkable, because many listeners may not even think of Argentina as an olive oil nation, yet its products still find their way into international markets.
They do, and Morocco tells a similar story. Despite producing oils of genuine quality, the lack of strict oversight allows about 15% of bottles to be cut with low-cost oils before reaching consumers.
And for a senior on a fixed income, the temptation of a bargain bottle is real. But it sounds like the hidden cost might be much higher than the price tag.
That is why Greece, despite its proud history, also cannot be overlooked. Studies show that roughly 1 in 5 bottles labeled as extra virgin from Greece may be blended or mislabeled, quietly stripping away the very benefits that people expect.
It's unsettling, because these aren't fringe products. They're bottles sitting right in our supermarkets, purchased with trust and even excitement. And if the first few countries already show this much risk, I can only imagine what the larger producers, the ones most seniors depend on, will reveal as we keep moving down the list. Which brings us directly into the next set of nations we need to examine more closely.
The next country that deserves attention is Turkey. It produces large volumes of olive oil, but research shows that nearly a third of its lower-priced bottles are adulterated with vegetable oils or hidden preservatives. Over time, those additives can quietly promote inflammation or even strain the liver, issues that seniors are already vulnerable to.
So in practice, what looks like a bargain on the shelf could end up costing far more in terms of long-term health.
Yes, and Tunisia illustrates a related pattern. About 15% of its exports are mixed with soybean or sunflower oil, which not only dilute the health benefits, but can also trigger allergic reactions in sensitive individuals.
That's important because many older adults already juggle food sensitivities or medication side effects. They can't afford a hidden ingredient that sets them back.
Absolutely. And then we have Egypt, a country that has expanded production rapidly but without consistent regulation. Tests there have found undeclared additives and even chemical traces that pose real risks like liver damage.
Which means the danger isn't just in losing antioxidants, it's in consuming compounds that the body never should have to process in the first place.
Exactly, John. Even in the United States, which many assume has strong oversight, studies show that about a quarter of bottles labeled extra virgin fail to meet international standards. Some are cut with cheaper oils, others simply mislabel lower grades.
That's a wake-up call, because so many seniors trust domestic brands to be safer, yet the science shows that assumption doesn't always hold true.
And then we reach Italy, often seen as the gold standard. Sadly, around 30% of its olive oil on the global market is fraudulent, sometimes containing harmful trans fats or additives instead of the heart-protective compounds people seek.
It's sobering to realize that even in countries we associate with tradition and quality, the system still allows this much fraud to slip through. As I picture my own relatives picking up bottles of oil with confidence, I can't help but think how betrayed they'd feel knowing how common this problem really is. And that makes our next step even more urgent, because if Italy carries this burden, what does that mean for Spain, the single largest producer in the world?
Spain, as the world's largest producer, unfortunately also leads in fraud. Roughly 1 in 4 bottles, especially the cheaper labels, are adulterated with oils like soybean or palm. Some of these even carry residues of pesticides, which raises the risk of hormone disruption and long-term organ stress.
It's hard to imagine that a product celebrated in Mediterranean diets for health and longevity could also be the very thing undermining those same benefits.
That is why certification and oversight are so essential. Without them, even the biggest markets are vulnerable, and seniors are left believing they're nourishing their bodies, while the opposite may be happening.
So what you're saying is that volume and reputation don't guarantee purity. Sometimes they make a product even more attractive for counterfeiters.
Yes, and this is where awareness must shift. We need to move from blind trust in a country's image to an informed understanding of the safeguards that truly protect the consumer.
And that brings us to the practical side, because if nearly every producing nation carries risk, the real question for our listeners becomes clear. How do we as seniors or family members shopping for loved ones actually recognize the genuine bottle when we stand in front of the shelf?
The first safeguard, John, is certification. Genuine extra virgin olive oil should carry designations such as Protected Designation of Origin or Protected Geographical Indication, because these systems demand full traceability. Without such marks, the chance of adulteration rises dramatically.
That makes me think, how many shoppers even know what those seals mean, let alone look for them when rushing through the grocery store?
Very few, which is why fraud persists. But for seniors who take the time, those seals are one of the simplest ways to protect themselves.
And yet, I can imagine some listeners wondering whether a label alone can truly be trusted in today's market.
That is where packaging details become vital. Authentic oils are almost always stored in dark glass bottles, with both harvest and bottling dates clearly shown, not just an expiration date.
And that leads us into the everyday experience of standing in front of the shelf, where the bottle design, the price, and the small print all compete for attention. It's here that many seniors make the most costly mistake, not because they don't care, but because no one has ever taught them what signs truly matter. So let's slow down and unpack those clues in a way that makes shopping less confusing and far more empowering.
John, beyond the label and the bottle, there are sensory clues every senior can learn. Real extra virgin olive oil carries a fresh, almost grassy aroma and a subtle bitterness on the tongue, both signs of its protective plant compounds, and that gentle peppery kick at the back of the throat is not a flaw. It is the unmistakable signal of polyphenols, the very antioxidants that guard our cells.
So if an oil tastes flat or feels like generic vegetable oil, that's already a warning sign the body itself can detect.
Correct, and even something as simple as price can be revealing. Genuine oils usually cost more because they take time, care, and resources to produce.
But that also raises a tough question. What about seniors on a fixed income who may feel forced to choose the cheapest option even if it puts their health at risk?
That is why education matters. A smaller bottle from a trusted source is far safer than a large bargain container that may be counterfeit.
And I imagine storage makes a difference too, since many seniors might buy in bulk without realizing how light and heat can slowly damage what's inside.
Yes, exactly. Olive oil should be kept in a cool, dark place, tightly sealed, and used within a reasonable period of time to preserve its potency.
That's a habit anyone can adopt, whether living alone or cooking for family, because it's about respecting the quality of what you bring home.
And for those who want one more tool, there is the fridge test. Authentic olive oil will thicken slightly in the cold, while adulterated oils often remain clear and thin.
That image is powerful. I can almost see someone listening right now pouring a little into a jar and finally uncovering the truth about what they've been eating. It makes me think of how many times we overlook the small, everyday checks that could save us years of struggle with inflammation, fatigue, or silent organ stress. And it tells me the next step in our conversation must be about turning these scattered tips into a clear, reliable plan that any senior can follow with confidence.
Another safeguard seniors can rely on is the harvest and bottling date. A true producer will print both clearly because freshness determines the strength of antioxidants inside the oil. An expiration date alone is not enough. It tells you when the oil goes bad, but not whether it ever had full potency to begin with.
That makes me realize how many of us, even health-conscious shoppers, never think twice about freshness when it comes to oil the way we would with fruit or vegetables.
Exactly, and that oversight costs us the very compounds we hope to gain. Antioxidants diminish over time, so an oil bottled years ago may have little left to offer.
So for someone listening, the advice isn't just about avoiding fraud. It's about choosing bottles that still carry the healing chemistry intact.
Yes, and that's where reputable retailers play a role. Specialty shops or trusted brands are more likely to rotate stock quickly, ensuring seniors get oil that truly supports their health.
It strikes me that the olive oil aisle is a lot like the pharmacy shelf. There are plenty of labels, but unless you know which signs matter, you can end up paying for something that doesn't help you. And that's why our next step should be turning all these details into a simple checklist, so no one leaves the store second-guessing themselves.
John, a checklist makes the complex simple. Seniors don't need to master every technical detail. They just need to remember a few reliable signs that guide them toward the real thing. With that clarity, choosing olive oil becomes a confident act of self-care rather than a confusing gamble.
That's such a powerful way to frame it. It turns what could feel like a chore into something almost empowering, like putting control back into the shopper's hands. And before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you to leave our listeners with one clear sentence, something they can repeat to themselves the next time they're standing in front of the shelf. What's the one line you want echoing in their minds when it matters most?
Then let me leave them with this. If the oil cannot prove its purity, it does not deserve your trust. That single thought can protect their health more than any label. And if you're looking for a safe place to start, there are a few oils that meet those standards, and we have added them in our top comment.
That's exactly the kind of wisdom that sticks. It's short, memorable, and practical enough to guide someone in the moment. And if you found this episode helpful, I encourage you to share it with someone you love, and check out our website where you find complete guides helping you to better health. See you there.